Welcome back, everybody. Varian here.
Rachel?
We are coming to you again with another episode of the Paragade Chronicles. Today, we're actually talking about the main storyline being, your primary objectives, your main missions that kind of lead you on the course of story of Mass Effect, going from Eden Prime, all of your main missions, Pharos, Novaria, Ilos, Therum. So we're going to talk about all of that. Hopefully, it's quick as we can. Let's just go ahead and jump into it. The first thing that you see, you start the game, obviously, aside from, the introduction that you get about Shepard themselves. Hear Hackett, Anderson, and Udina all speaking about Shepard, what they're known for, what they've done, whether, in the tone, it's like good or bad. So once all that happened, get the scroll of 2148. Humans thought that they were alone in the galaxy, and they found out that they weren't. Then they found the Mars ruins, and that's what jumped the technology forward and gave us FTL travel, as well as finding the Mass Effect relay. Once it comes through all of that, you get the big old Mass Effect right in the front. It kind of fades into a planet, and then that fades out, and then it shows the Normandy. Well, once you get through all of that, going through the mass relay, it cuts to our true opening scene where Joker is saying how good everything went, and the first person you hear besides him is going to be Nihilus. He is a Turian Spectre who is on this mission to Eden Prime, and he's there to actually observe Shepard and see how Shepard performs in his missions, you can actually say. The thing that I probably mentioned before and Rach didn't know at that time, Nihilus is actually voiced by Alistair Duncan, who also voices the Turian counselor, Paratus. So that was something that I was like, that voice sounds familiar. And then I end up looking that up, and it's like, oh, that's who that was. You're on your way to Eden Prime because there was a distress call. They don't know what was going on, and you don't actually find that out until you get into the debriefing room, where Nihilus is already there. Captain Anderson was a little bit far behind, so it's just you and Nihilus speaking, you being Shepard. Then Anderson comes in and lets you know this is what's going on. There was an attack on Eden Prime. They don't know who's done it, what has done it. They just know that there's a Prothean beacon that they need to recover. And in order to do that, they need to touch down. And that's why Nihilus is there, because not only is he just observing what you can do, he's recruiting you for Spectre status, which is something very, very important that we'll talk about soon. You also have Corporal Richard Jenkins, who is an important part of just this opening act. Little gung-ho, obviously, because when you start talking to him, it's like, depending on your Shepard, kid's like really excited to
He's eager.
touch down. He's eager. He's very eager. For starters, he's from Eden Prime. He has the experience that he does with the planet. Doesn't see it as like a significant place to do anything, really. He's actually wondering why somebody would attack the planet. That and his, I don't want to necessarily say infatuation, but his respect for, I guess, what Shepard does. Hearing about Nihilus the Spectre, he thinks that, if humans ever do become Spectre, Shepard would be great for it. Yeah, foreshadowing, I guess. Why don't we go ahead and get into what happens when we touch down?
So before that, actually, you get a intermission that Joker says that you guys need to see. And then that kind of shows you Ashley's team having the trouble with the Reaper and the Geth. But at this time, you don't really know who she is. You just know that there's a team that's in trouble. And Shepard says that this mission just got a lot more complicated than what they originally thought.
Anderson does say that.
Get ready. And then when you arrive on Eden Prime, it's you, Caden, and Jenkins. You guys go through Eden Prime and just kind of see the area, see what you're dealing with. You don't really fight anything until you get a little bit further. You only have Jenkins for about 5-10 minutes. Not even.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of another game. And I can never remember the guy's name, but he shows up in like every Gears of War game, and he's practically expendable. It's like within the first few minutes, he's dead. And apparently these are all people who are related to one another.
Really?
I guess they're all voiced by the same actor. And yeah, it's within like the first maybe few minutes or at some point in the game, they're going to end up dying. So yeah, that does happen quite often. It was at first I was like, why would they do that? It is one of those, it is his home planet. It's kind of a way to send him back home one way or another. It's like, yeah, if you're going to die anywhere, die in your home world. Although that is kind of cold, them doing that to him at the same time. From that point where he does fall, you and Caden do go forward just a little bit more, cutting
He
through more
gets
gas.
gunned down by a Geth drone. They
Those things
basically
are,
obliterate his shields. Is
yeah.
pretty much what Caden says.
Yeah, rip right through his shields, never stood a chance. That tells you that the armor was not that strong. Yeah, it's one of those you should have been better prepared.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
here is where you can kind of choose your first morality, your
Mhm.
Paragon or Renegade. You can say something along the lines of, yeah, oh well, he's dead. Let's move on.
Yeah, that's definitely the Renegade or the Paragon. It's a middle of the road option would be, we'll see that he gets a proper burial when the mission is complete, but I need you to stay focused.
Yeah.
That's like the middle of the road is like, yeah, we do need to keep going. It's more trying to stay focused on the mission. You can't let anything distract you, obviously.
Exactly. So once you do that and you have your little morality moment, you head up a field and more drones are there. You destroy them, and then coming over through all that, Nihilus will come over the comm with not so good news, saying that he's come across a lot of dead bodies, that he's going forward to figure out what's going on. And he'll talk to you in a little bit. So once you do that, you get a cutscene where you are introduced to Ashley.
Gunner Chief Williams actually being chased by two drones at that point.
I think so, yeah.
Ends up, she's running, pulls her pistol out, backs up, falls, knocking both of them out. Then pulls out her assault rifle once she's behind the rock. And you see the actual, I guess you would consider them the foot soldiers of the Geth coming towards her, while at the same time you see somebody still human being put onto one of the dragon teeth, the spikes that turn the humans into the husks. That's really your first taste of what will become the husks. You don't see that until just a little bit later on, though. Once you get through that cutscene, kill the enemies get introduced to her, get like a recap of what's been going on. Essentially, why are we here scenario. So she explains that her unit, the 212, got ambushed. They don't know what's going on, who is attacking them. Come to find out that they're Geth. Everybody's confused. It's like, wait a minute, the Geth haven't been seen outside the Perseus Veil in over 300 years. What are they doing here now? And then that's when you find out they're looking for this Prothean beacon, the same one that Anderson had briefed you on. You dig a little bit deeper, trying to figure out what happened to the scientists that were studying the Prothean beacon. Then it all comes down to recruiting her to your squad. So you lose Jenkins, but you gain Williams in the process.
Fortunately.
Yeah, that's a here and there kind of thing for both of us, I'll say. Well, more a here and there for me is more of a there for you. Then you actually head down to where the beacon was supposed to be initially. So given that they had actually moved it from, let's say across planet or even across town, I don't even know how you would describe where you were, but yeah, we move it another port almost. And in between all that, again, you're fighting more Geth, finding out what you can about some of the people who have been hiding from the Geth and, getting the information that they can give on the beacon, what's going on. You come across two scientists, one of which is just a little eccentric. Sounds crazy, but when you think about it, it's maybe not so much crazy.
Easter egg. When you first go in there, the girl says, "Thank the maker."
Oh, see, I've noticed that every time, but I never put two and two together on that
Dragon
one.
Age.
Yes.
It's an Easter egg for Dragon Age because in Dragon Age, the religion, instead of saying God, they call him the maker.
Yeah.
So if you play both games, you kind of you put two and two together. But I thought that was I don't know if that was on purpose Easter egg or what, but
probably is a BioWare thing because if that's the case, save Star Wars, Dragon Age and Mass Effect in that case, and I don't know if they've ever confirmed it or not, are in the same universe. That would be interesting if that were true.
Yeah. I just
So
thought that was a cool little Easter egg for that little scene because it's not a big scene. It's just a little like 2 minute thing where
yeah,
you can choose to punch the guy or
yeah, just to
you
shut them
can
up.
choose to you can choose to leave them and say stay where you are, or you can punch the guy and be like it's better you than him, or it's better him be like this now. And then she's like, yeah, I guess the meds will kick in now.
Yeah.
Because even Kaden, I think, says that was a little extreme, Commander.
And Shepard will just have this grin on their face, like, yeah, maybe. But I
Maybe, but
enjoyed
it
it.
was fun.
So again, they kind of give you a little bit of a rundown of what's been going on. Shepard asks if there was actually a Turian in the area, and the doctor describes him as the herald of our destruction, and that being none other than Saren, who we're always referring to in this game as your number one nemesis. But the thing is, they knew nothing about Saren. They were asking about Nihilus. So without actually saying his name, it kind of gave them the impression like, wait a minute, there's somebody else here.
Hmm.
Isn't supposed to be here, or we've got just this big problem that we're about to have to deal with. Caden is like, that's impossible. Now this was with us on the Normandy before the attack. So that right there proves, okay, there's somebody else.
Hmm.
And we need to be very, very careful with what we're doing.
So you head out of there and you actually are introduced to the husk at this point. But before you
Hmm.
are introduced, no, it's just after you're introduced to the husk. You fight the husk,
Hmm.
you go up
Right.
to this ramp, and you are introduced to who you later find out is Sovereign, which is the
Right.
Reaper. And Sovereign is, like I said earlier in the other episode, he emits this kind of really weird wave,
Hmm.
and that is him essentially starting the indoctrination.
Cutting off communication, that way it can do what it does. Send out the signal, which again, it blocks out communication, but it sends out a controlling anything organic. And again, we also mentioned how the Geth themselves weren't able to be controlled, so there had to be some type of reprogramming in that as well. Now, before we
You
do have
see that,
we do have the
and you get the
cutscene.
cutscene, yes,
Yeah.
of Nihilus and Saren, and you get this kind of dark music when
Mhm.
you are introduced to Saren, knowing that this guy is not on the up and up. This guy is going to be
A
someone that you
problem.
see throughout
Yeah.
the game, and this is when you kind of start to realize this is probably your final boss.
And again, it goes back to when you met the scientist, the crazy one talking about how. So again, it wasn't Nihilus. This was the other Turian. Now, granted, Shepard has not seen this yet because you're just coming over the ridge. It's happening before you even get there.
Gunshot because Saren shoots Nihilus in the back.
Yes,
He
yes,
pulls a
and
power move and shoots him
yeah,
in from behind.
which looking at that, I was like, that's just wrong.
Mhm.
That's very renegade to pull off. You hear that shot, it cuts back to you running and getting back to the spaceport. That's when you're met with more husks, you're met with more Geth. So both of them at the same time. Usually it was just one or the other up to this point. So it adds a little bit more of a challenge. How well are you going to be able to get through this? You're going to be able to shoot your way out, use your powers or anything. Once you do clear everything out, though, you have the chance to open up another storage crate, whatever, and you meet up with three other farmers.
A farmer named
And
Cole and two of his friends, and you can
right.
ask Cole some questions about the attack and the ship you saw. And then
Hmm.
before you leave, one of the farmers asked Cole if he should give you the loot or whatever that they found.
Hmm.
They were smuggling stuff for them to keep while all this was going on.
Hmm.
And you can, depending on how high your persuasion is, renegade
Hmm.
or Paragon, tell him, give me your shit that you found.
Who is it? Williams will actually ask who his contact is. He's like, yeah, I don't want to give him away. And the Paragon option is like, is it really worth the trouble? Or the Renegade is pretty much, pull a gun. He's like, do you want to be a snitch or a corpse? So depending on which one you do will depend on how you get your answer. But either way, you will get it. You will see Niles' body laying down after Saren has already killed him and moved on. And when you initiate, looking at Nihilus, that's when you meet. Do you
Oh,
remember?
Ashley actually notices. She says there's someone moving behind the crates, and you have pistols up, and it's just a dock worker who
Hmm.
introduces himself as Pal. If you got the name, you'll
Hmm.
go, "You're the one that Cole told me about," or whatever. And
Hmm.
you find out that this fucker was
Hmm.
sleeping during this.
Yes. And Ashley just could not stand it. She's like, you're an embarrassment. And Shepard can either be like, chill out, don't worry about it, or dream him at this point. Like, just give me what you got and give us what we want. Information, any spare parts that you might be holding. It almost comes down to it. You can shoot him
Hmm.
in the end if you're going full renegade. By the time he gives all the information, you know that you get confirmation about what Sovereign has done, what Sovereign has done as far as, the signal and everything. But yes, he does mention Saren killing Nihilus. Shepard can ask, wait, you're saying there was another Turian here? So that did confirm, what they were saying. They thought that it was only Nihilus. Comes to find out it was somebody else. It's
The
basically.
next part is pretty straightforward. You
Hmm.
kind of just go, you follow the direction while fighting a bunch of Geth to
Hmm.
get to the spaceport, the next platform. And when you get to the platform, you will trigger a cutscene when you get off of Theron and the Geth
Hmm.
detonating bombs.
Setting them, not hopefully not letting them detonate, because it's your task now to
Detonate them.
deactivate
3 or 4.
four.
I
I want to
think
say
it's
it's
3 or
four.
4, yeah. They give
So
you a decent amount of time, and one of them is literally right there.
yeah, like right when you start. So
You hear how you know if the one is nearby, you hear it beeping.
yeah.
So you deactivate all of those while fighting Geth, where you can have your partners do the fighting and you kind of run and deactivate them,
Hmm.
which is what I
And
usually do.
yeah, so you're deactivating these. You're having them fight off the Geth. You're trying to fight the Geth as you're trying to get to them. So there's a lot of gunfire. It's a good thing that this game didn't have the thermal clips and just had the cooldown system,
Yes.
because then you'd be just wasting ammo at this point. And you probably end up running out given how little that they gave you in some of those weapons.
Yes.
But yeah, given all of that, once you cut through all of them, you get the bombs deactivated. You come across a few more Geth and a few more husks at the actual location of the beacon. So once you clear all of them out, you pretty much go to the beacon, Shepard call to the Normandy to set for extraction.
And whoever is your romance option, well, whoever, because Caden and Ashley are a part of the romance options in this game.
Hmm.
So if you're male shepherd, it'll be Ashley. If you're female shepherd, it'll be Caden.
Hmm.
One of them will go investigate the beacon while you're calling, and they'll get kind of stuck in a warp. And Shepherd sees this and pulls them and throws them back. And then
Hmm.
Shepherd gets caught in it, and you see Shepherd go up, and he's like, he or she's like this, and then you start to see the images of
Hmm.
what you later on find out is, well, you don't really find out in this game. You find out in the third game when you talk to Javik that this was
Hmm.
the warning that the Protheans sent out,
Hmm.
warning you about the Reapers and why you didn't act on it at that
Right.
time because you couldn't because Shepard even says we didn't understand it at the time.
Hmm. Well, there is something that does help a little bit, but we'll get into that here soon, because once that does actually happen, Shepard's gone through all of that, the beacon explodes, and next thing you know, it pans up, goes black, and then it actually cuts to Sovereign traveling through space. The two people that you should be worried about now are not only Saren, but also, I don't think they actually name her at first, like and especially in the
They
original
don't
games, but
tell
it was just the
you,
matriarch.
yeah, they don't tell you who she is. Don't even know if they say matriarch. I think I don't know if they even say her name, but they show Sovereign or Saren and and Benezia, but you don't know it's
Hmm.
her. You don't find out it's her until Tally gives you the information, and the Asari
Right.
counselor says, "I recognize that voice."
Right. So you see them on the ship, and you actually start to see what Benezia will eventually speak about, and what we actually talked about in the indoctrination episode. The inside of the ship is almost like organic, but also as she's relaying the information that a human has activated the ship, or activated the beacon, excuse me, Saren just explodes, and then you see just red all over the ship, like it's naturally happening as you go. Then he actually grabs her right here in the jaw.
And
She's
holds her
standing
like
still,
this
like
close to
nothing
his
going on.
face.
She's not reacting to anything. She's just like whatever. And he just says, "This human must be eliminated." And then that's when you cut back to the Normandy, and Shepard's on the ship, out for what is it, 15 hours? I want to
Something
say.
like that, yeah, in the med
Yeah.
bay.
And this is when you wake up, you go over everything that just happened, basically like a debrief from the doctor. You're almost killed. Somehow you survived.
And
Basically, this is
Ashley
what happened.
or Caden, whoever, like I said, whoever was the one that you pushed out of the way,
Hmm.
this is where you can kind of start your romance. This is kind of how you know that they're an important character in the game, is because they're kind
Hmm.
of with you for those important scenes. And then they kind of, depending on what you say, because you can
Hmm.
pretty much say, "Oh, it wasn't your fault," and they'll kind of look at you and smile. But if
Yeah.
it's Ashley, I'm usually like, "Yeah, you should have known better."
Now, the funniest thing that I always find is whenever Dr. Chakwas, who is your ship's doctor, she'll ask you how you're feeling. My response is always like the morning after shore leave. So basically, Shepard's been drunk a few times, especially when having all that downtime. So that tells you, yeah, probably hit that stuff a little too hard. But that's also right when Anderson comes in and gives you a proper debriefing, letting you know what's going on. You talk about losing Jenkins, gaining Ashley, but his biggest concern, being Anderson, is the fact that Saren is involved. And we've gone over their connection before.
But
How
Shepard doesn't know
Saren,
this.
right? Shepard doesn't know this yet. You will find out in time. Like you're on your way to the Citadel right now. Anderson kind of goes over the fact that Saren's bad news. He does not like humans. He thinks there's a plague. They're a plague on the galaxy, and he thinks that they need to be eliminated. Period. So that's what kind of gauged him into this journey that he's on. Finding Sovereign and using it to bring about the return of the Reapers, who, again, you find out more about that once you get onto the Normandy. So when you're there, you literally start off in the ambassador's office. The ambassador is talking to the council, trying to figure out, what are you guys going to do if the Geth attacked a Turian colony? Y'all be all over it. But because it's human, you're not doing anything. So
Mm-hmm.
right there, you start to see from the start his angst towards aliens. They don't like humans, and he doesn't like them. It's never truly about that. It's where the priorities lie. But then again, maybe that is the case. Maybe they don't like humans. And it's all perception, especially with Shepard. Shepard can actually take that personally. So that you are set on course to essentially find evidence that you can use.
Expose Saren. Expose Sharon.
Hmm.
Let's fuck Saren.
Yeah. That's before Shepard even speaks to the council. Kind of come up with that idea that you need to find something to go with it, but they want you to meet in the council chambers to speak to the council directly.
Yeah.
In doing that, they actually have Saren on like this giant hollow. He's actually present for his trial. Don't find anything that can corroborate. A traumatized dock worker doesn't really say anything. Shepard's visions. Saren says, plain and simple, are we allowing dreams into evidence now? They pretty much throw everything out of the window.
And then
Um,
Saren also makes a comment because Anderson will say something, and then Saren says something along the lines of, Captain Anderson, you seem to always be a part of these accusations against me.
hmm To realize it's rightfully so.
Start to realize that Anderson and Saren have
A
history.
history.
So you just don't know what it is.
Not yet, but you will find out very, very soon. Come to find out. After you get out of this meeting with the council and Saren, you, Caden, Ashley, Udina, and Anderson all speak. Udina knew that it was a bad idea to bring in Anderson, given their history with Saren. They figured, maybe there's a few ways for you to find out more information, see what we can use to, put him away, find some people to help us out. Use the fast travel, you're not going to necessarily meet them right then and there. But if you take the elevator, which I usually do,
I think you have to.
No, you don't. You don't have to. You can, and it's preferred because that's how you meet him the first time. Is Garrus? That's when he's talking to Executive Palin. That's where it starts, where he was actually investigating Saren, trying to get all the information that he could on him. Because he's a Turian, it's kind of personal. Garrus really didn't approve of a lot of the things that he was doing. Thought that he shouldn't be getting away with a lot of things just because he's a Spectre, and rightfully so. In doing that, he's one of the first ones that you have to go after. For to do that, it's recommended that you speak to Harkin, who is a CSEC agent, who is, on a leave of absence at the time. Drunken Core is dead, basically. Mm-hmm. But when you go to see him, you also meet up with another figure.
Well, he's the one that tells you about Anderson too, and Anderson and Saren. But you also you have a chance to meet Rex in Cora's Den.
Mm-hmm.
You can also meet him, or actually no, you see him Out of My Way Human or whatever.
Yes, so, he's the one. He's trying to get into the back to where Fist is, who owns the Club Cora's Den where you're visiting, and that's like your first.
Out of my way, human. I have no quarrel or beef with you.
Yeah, and that's like your first experience with a Krogan. Won't be your last one in this game.
No.
That's also where you get with Harkin to try to find information on where to find Garrus. After his constant nagging about how he hates the military and all this other stuff, trying to down talk Anderson and everything.
If you're a female shepherd, he'll be a little aggressive with you.
Sexist, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to put it plainly, and we can kind of say this because we allow it, he's a dick. Plain and simple. Whether you're male or female, he's just a complete asshole. And
he's just a little more vulgar to femshep.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
So it's kind of one of those, you got to force the information out of them, almost threaten them. But you do find out that Garrus is at Dr. Michelle's office, who he actually has a good relationship with. He heard some stuff was going on there. And apparently there was an ambush in her office trying to find another future crew member. Garrus gets in there, he comes around a pillar, shoots this guy in the head who was holding her, and that's when this big old fight starts. And this is after Shepard walks right into the room, pulling your gun. So once you calm all that down, you speak to Dr. Michelle, and you find out that there's a Quarian who Fist trying to get this information about Saren. So again, everything is just all tied together in this introduction. And what better way to do it, honestly? So when you find that,
so this is where we talked about this when we talked about getting your crew members, how you initially get them. You end up going to Fist. Fist tells you that she gave her information to the shadow broker or whatever. She gets to have a time limit on finding the Quarian. You go find her. She's getting ambushed by Saren's men. You help shoot them and blah, blah. And then you go, and this is where you find out about Benezia. Tally plays her her info that she has, and they go back to the council and play it again for the Citadel or for the council. And that's when the Asari counselor goes, I recognize her, blah, blah, blah. And this is where you now have a complete team at this point, minus Liara.
Rex, if you did, well, if you did get
Rex and Liara, depending on if you got them. Rex, you get very shortly after this, before you head up back to the, or you can get him back up to the Normandy. And this is where you get told that Anderson is no longer in charge. You are in charge, and they tell you 3 places where you can go. They tell you Ferrum, which is where you get Liara, which is where they recommend you go first. Or you can do Noveria, where Venezia has been seen. Or you can do Pharos. Like I mentioned in the last episode, I tend to do Pharos first because it's fairly easy. And I find Noveria a little more nitpicky and annoying because you have to do certain things, blah, blah. You have to do certain things in every spot, but I just find Pharos faster. I don't know if that's just me, but I find Pharos a little bit faster to do.
Therum, I can say, to me, especially as like a straightforward kind of thing, it is more driving. I'd say is all 3 of them you do drive quite a bit. Pharos is kind of like that straightforward though, but between Noveria and Therum and the Artemis Tau cluster, how they drive it, those 2 have probably the most driving that you have to do to get from point A to point B.
And Ferrum, I think it is annoying as I think all of the missions, if you die, you start back up at the beginning.
Yes. Now, there is something that they did in Legendary Edition where they do have periodic saves now. In Mass Effect 1. So
in the first version, in the 360 version, if you died at any point, you were back to the beginning, and that is where it was frustrating as fuck.
Yes, and I absolutely hated it too. Because I don't know how many times I would go through that level and end up dying, and it's like, damn it, right back at the beginning. All right, let's try this again. Typically do, would you say Pharos first? The reason that I typically go with getting Liara first is because that will complete your crew.
Yeah, but I'm leaving her for last, like we've talked about earlier, how she thinks you're not real and all that. So I like leaving. I like the fact that they added that, like if you chose
as a possibility
last, that she's like, who are you? Why are you why is this hologram trying to save me and blah blah blah? Like I thought that was kind of funny that they added that, but I will typically do Pharos first because I find Pharos a little more, like we've kind of said, straightforward. So you get on to Pharos, and all of these sections have the Mako, which is it's a little better in the Legendary Edition, but not much. It's an annoying little vehicle that you have to drive. And when we say annoying, it's a struggle to use this thing. You don't want to, but you have to.
It's your means of transportation, so you better get used to it. It's really all you can say.
There's not much you can do, unfortunately.
To Therum, you got to fight tons and tons of Geth, specifically the Armators. I don't think you actually see the actual Colossus in this one.
Yes, you do.
Oh, is that the one that you end up fighting at the end?
Yeah, before you go to Liara.
That's okay. That is the one. So yeah, you do end up on your path. It's better with the Mako, which is why I'm kind of upset. But it makes sense that you couldn't bring it in to that last little bit. You had to do all that on foot. Because even still,
yourself and hide behind the wall, then it tends to be fine. But the Colossus,
on occasion,
the Colossus can
shoot through anything.
Shields. So you get shot by it twice, you're dead.
Yes, might not help anything, but don't get hit by it. If you do hers first, you still get the explanation, or give her the explanation that There was a damaged protein beacon. There's information on, something going on. She's done studies about, the galactic extinction over countless cycles. It does get interesting again when you save her for last, because by that point on Pharaohs, you end up fighting again these pockets of Geth, and then come to find out the Thorian, who we mentioned in the last episode, they become a problem. They start letting off these, like, basically their own versions of husks, the Thorian creepers. They're in between you and getting to it, but also they started to control the colonists themselves.
Before even that, though, you go through a lot of Geth and you do these tasks, or you can do these tasks, where you have to get food, water, and
food, water, power cells,
power source.
Mm-hmm.
You can do all those things, get yourself some morality point, and you kind of notice that some of the colonists treat you kind of off. Also find a crazy dude.
Very, very crazy. Invoking the Master's Whip, as he called it. You see him down there, like, I don't know how else to put it. Yeah, he's practically gone crazy.
He talks to you, and then after everything he says, he's like, no.
It's almost like somebody with Tourette's.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah. It's kind of funny but sad at the same time. It's like, do I laugh? Do I cry? Do I feel sorry for him? I don't know.
you
But
basically just end up leaving him there and continuing on. And then you mentioned that you mentioned
Fidan.
that you ran into a crazy guy, and he goes, "Yeah, I know, blah blah blah."
Yeah, he's not well. It's like, why don't you get him medicated or something? It's like, I can't just do something like that against their will. So, given everything that's going on, you have, again, no clue what's going on. So you get to Exogenic Crew.
Mhm.
Elizabeth Bainham is missing. Her mother was looking for her. They work together. So you're actually sent to find her first. So do a little bit of a side quest with Gavin Hossel, which you'll actually hear mentioned later on in the trilogy. One of the big things, not only with trying to find out the Thorian, because again, there's my favorite scene with the Krogan. Once you get through all of that, there's a hatch that you have to close, because there's a Geth ship attached to the side of this thing. So when you can close that hatch, drop the Geth ship down to, wherever at this point. And by the time you get out of here, again, you're fighting tons and tons of Geth. It's like they're almost multiplying.
You're using the Mako.
Yeah, get out of that. You've already saved Elizabeth, but you find out.
You also see a Geth Colossus in this area as well.
That's the one, yeah. Because, yeah, those things are pretty huge, even just standing right in front of them. It gives you the opportunity to really dig a little bit deeper. It's like, you didn't tell us everything. What's going on here? So, again, going back to the whole indoctrination thing, how the Thorian actually has unique mind controlling capabilities. They found that to say, you know what, y'all want to poke around with me? I think I want to play around with y'all. And ends up taking control of them. That's where things get interesting, because once you get back to the main settlement, the Thorian has taken control of everybody in full. It's possible that, well, not even possible. It was actually the Thorian controlling them to begin with, and you didn't notice. What they call pantomiming a normal existence. So by the time you get back to the settlement, you can either kill them.
They give you, first, Elizabeth's mom gives you a grenade and says you have the option. You can choose not to take it, but she still gives it to you if you want to be renegade. I will not use it. I don't care. I'd rather just shoot them all.
It's a lot easier that way.
Yeah, but that's just me. You can choose to save them, but it's easier and more fun to just kill them, especially the ones who are assholes to you.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
fight through all of them.
But it's like, they they weren't actually in control of their attitude towards you, because once you do clear them all out, if you are Paragon and you save everybody, you find out that the Thorian was the one controlling them. So once you actually kill the Thorian, it releases hold that it had on them.
No, Slidan's little bitch assistant wasn't nice.
Yeah, she was a little bit of a pain, and she didn't even seem like she was under that much control. Just
So
you
there
know,
you go. So not
yeah,
necessarily.
true,
I like
true,
shooting her.
yeah,
Fidan will basically, once you're done all that, Fidan will come out and shoot himself because he's trying to fight the control, saying that he
yeah,
won't. And he has the gun pointed at you at first, and then he's like, I won't, and then shoots himself in the
boom,
head.
yeah. So he ultimately resists his own way, sacrificing himself,
Yeah.
doing that. But again, once you get down to the Thorian, defeat it, the Asari clones that it made, the creepers.
You go down to the very bottom. You find the
Hmm.
Thorian the actual Thorian,
Hmm.
and trying to make your way back up. And as you're trying to make your way back up to shoot all the tentacles that are holding it on the wall, you
Hmm.
fight through the Thorian creepers and an Asari clone. And the Thorian creepers, they get up at various times, so they're not all coming at you at once, but they are
Hmm.
annoying because they shoot acid at you and
They
they throw
explode.
kind of like the husk,
Yeah.
which is why in the indoctrination episode I mentioned them being
Hmm.
kind of like a husk because they have the same type of husk like features. They look
Yes. Yeah.
like a husk, they're just green.
Yeah.
And instead of sending electricity out of their bodies, they're sending
They
acid
just.
out of their bodies. So,
Yeah.
but you
Still,
go
they're still
through all
pains in the
that.
ass.
Yes, you go through all that. You meet Shala again at the top.
Shiala. Yeah.
Yeah, you meet her again at the top, and she gives you
The cipher.
the cipher, and you have another vision, kind of like what happened with the beacon, but it gives you a little bit more detail in it.
More understanding of the
Yeah.
Protheans, their language, what it is to be a Prothean, and that's why that right there is what gave Shepard essentially what Shepard needs going forward, the ability to communicate in that sense. But it isn't until you find out. Still get back to the ship after everything is said and done.
Yeah, you get back to the ship and you're in a group setting where you have everybody. And if you have
Hmm.
Liara
Hmm.
will connect with you and
Hmm.
try to help you understand what's going on
Right.
after every mission. But if you don't have her until the end, she just gets it all at once.
Yeah, and it's all overwhelming. So not only just the information that she's getting from the missions, but also the cipher itself. It's like that's just way too much.
Yes,
you
so
know.
she's a little overwhelmed with that case, but if you have her after every one, she'll connect with you after every single one and she gets the story of what's going on as you get it.
Right.
Or she gets it all at once if you wait to get her till last and you
Right.
have everything, she gets the entire thing and it drains her in a sense. Either
Hmm.
way, I think it kind of drains her, but it drains her more
Yeah.
if you do it
I
at
want to say so. Yeah. Yeah. So finally the first three core missions, I would say is what those are, would be Novaria. Nobody goes there unless they absolutely have to. It's too damn cold. All that
Mhm.
snow. I don't mind cool temperatures. That'd be the equivalent of me coming up to Canada during the winters. Like,
I was just about to say,
yeah.
we get snow.
I mean, not gonna lie, I do get snow as well, and I've had plenty of blizzards that I've had to dig through,
But not
literally.
not near your winter is different from ours.
I'll agree with that. Living in the Appalachian Mountains, we get plenty, and I live literally right beside a mountain, like right behind me.
So
When it
your
snows,
winters are probably closer to what we get, but they're still different.
mm, Yeah, I agree with that one. Novaria is just like the one place that you don't want to go unless you absolutely have to. And this is one of those cases. Biggest thing, obviously, is how personal it is for Liara. So when you bring her, if you don't bring
If
her,
you bring her.
one of your crew members will actually mention, maybe we should go and get her, bring her along, and maybe she can talk to Benezia, reason with her or something.
Find
If
out
you
that
do actually,
Benezia is Liara's mother.
yes, you do. Well, you kind of find out that when you rescue Liara to begin with, it does explain that if you do bring her initially in the group, she will ask you if you still want her to come along, because even she's thinking, maybe this is a bad idea. Do you trust me to do anything, or whatever? And you can say either go back to the ship, trust you, or you could put her in a situation where it's like, if it's between me and your mother, who would you choose? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is one of those, trying to find where her allegiances lie. She's part of your crew. She's going to follow you no matter what, even if it is her own mother that she has to fight. Yeah, we were even discussing earlier, you got a ton of stuff to do to be able to leave the port that you're on. Going through Administrator Ananias, talking to him, he's not going to let you go. You talk to Gianna Parasini, who you spoke to at the front, secretary for Minister Ananias. Then she tells you to go specifically to Lord Keene, a Turian at the bar, so you can get a pass. Well, apparently there's more going on that station. Corruption is the rule, so long as you don't dip into anything that you shouldn't. She ends up getting you to get him, Keen, to testify to get his garage pass. There's just so much stuff that goes on with that, but long story short, you end up getting it.
There's a numerous stuff that you have to do on Novaria. There's side missions that you can do. One being a thing for an Asari, getting
Yes.
information about a company for an Asari, trying to blackmail them.
Never do. I always did. I always let the guy know.
I don't. I like getting the credits because then it's like, oh, did I say 500? I meant 750 or whatever, and
Oh no. I still get the credits. I lied to her saying that the job is done.
Oh.
I just let him. I just informed the dude that somebody gave me this data cracker. So do whatever you want to with it. And he's like, oh, we're gonna have some fun with this.
I lied to her because I think yours is the Paragon option.
Oh no, I use the Renegade option on that one all the time. I
No,
always get the same.
letting him know is Paragon.
Yeah, but
Doing the work for the Asari is Renegade.
Well, you could still let him know, but then lie to her and still get the bumping credits. You could let her know that it's done.
Yeah, but I'm saying I think yours is the Paragon option. Letting him know is the Paragon option, and actually doing it is the Renegade.
I still extort her for the money. But yeah, in doing all of that, you finally figure out that Parasini isn't who she said she was. Actually, Novaria Internal Affairs, and a cop. You're trying to figure out everything that's going on with P15. So by the time you get all the information that you need to from Lord Keene, he gets you set up with Garage Pass. That's right before she arrested Ananias for whatever he was doing. So once you get that,
you can also sabotage her and tell Ananias that she is Internal Affairs.
Yes. See, I haven't gone that route before. Now I'm going to have to.
I've done it a few times.
I bet it's fun, ain't it? Or at least a little funny.
I think he shoots her.
Ooh. See, I did not know that.
I think he shoots her.
Either way, whether you help her or help him, you end up with the garage pass.
Yeah.
So in doing that, they get you set up to leave. You end up fighting more Geth in the garage. And Captain Matsuo, who you meet at the very, very beginning of all this, she's wondering what was going on. Why is there gunfire going on through here? And you explained to her that there was Geth in there, and she didn't believe you. Come to find out, obviously, it was Azia who brought the crates in, which you find out Ananias himself she still didn't believe you that it was Benezia that did it. But once you get through all the back and forth, you again get in the Mako and you're on your way. Once you reach,
You drive through a snowstorm and fight through a bunch of gas, and
mhm,
you get up to peak 15, and again you have to do a bunch of stuff for peak 15 before you can do
mhm,
certain things or go certain places. There is a part where you have to help the doctor,
mhm,
and you end up fighting an Asari that is
mhm,
a sleeper agent for Benezia, and then the Bolus will tell you that they went through there, or she came through there, and then you can head that
mhm.
way, or you can head through the restricted area, and once you head through the restricted area, everybody that you just talked to becomes hostile,
Yeah,
and you have to fight your way through them. You're on your way to find Benezia. And you find Benezia, you fight her and her commando soldiers, and you see her in front of a Rachni
yeah.
queen.
And the Rachni Queen does give a little bit of you have a little bit of foreshadowing there because you're going to meet that queen technically twice more in the trilogy if you decide to let them live. They explain that they weren't around during the Rachni War. They've only heard stories. They don't have any true animosity. They just want to live and go. If you bring Rex along with this, he'll be furious if you let them go.
I've never brought Rex.
He bring Rex and Garrus
Okay.
on that one because there's a little inside joke when it comes to the Rachni Wars because the Krogans were the one who fought in that. The
Yes.
Turians actually had a little bit to do with that. It was something about sterilizing the Krogan is how we got to the Rachni Wars and all this, and um, it just goes on. It's something hilarious.
Yeah, I don't think
But
I've ever brought either of them. I think I usually end up bringing Tally and Caden, or
mhm.
Tally and Garrus, or Caden and Garrus, but I don't think I've ever brought Rex to that one.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those. It'll be personal for him because he was around during the Rachni Wars. He's
Yeah.
been around for a while, and yeah, it's up to you whether you kill off the Rachni if you let them live. And really, that's your two options. There's not really a third one. Yeah, where a lot of things have that. In the end, any debriefings that you have, like on the Citadel, Udina will have something to say about that. And when you debrief with the council themselves while you're on the Normandy, they'll have something to say about whether you kill them or
I
not.
usually will just disconnect with the council and not tell them anything.
Same.
That's the one
Well,
thing about Mass
okay.
Effect 1. That is one thing that I love doing, is because after every mission, you have to debrief with the council. And we
You
haven't
don't have
mentioned this
to.
before.
You
We
actually
haven't
don't have
mentioned
to.
this before. You
Hmm.
have to debrief with them, but as soon as you debrief, you can hang up on them almost instantly.
Like right in the middle of the conversation. Yeah. Well, actually,
Like,
they do give
not
you.
even in the middle. You can literally, like, Joker will say the council's ready for you or whatever, and
Oh
then
yeah, you can just
you
say no.
hang up on them, and, like, they say something about Commander, and
Mhm.
then you can hang up on them, and
Yeah.
then Joker will make comments about it too. Um,
See, I didn't know that. Okay.
and then there's also the council will make comments about you too, saying that, are you actually going to talk to us, or are you going to hang up this time? And then you go, whoops.
Whoops.
And
And the call's dropped.
yeah, you have to do that through Mass Effect 1 because you're working specifically for the council
Right.
as a Spectre. But I can't believe we
Mhm.
never mentioned that before.
Yeah.
I'm
Seriously. Like
surprised we haven't.
any chance to hang up on the council, that's
That's
one
what
you
I
take.
should do in Mass Effect 1 after every mission is hanging up on the council when they're trying to debrief with you and find out what the hell happened.
Hmm.
And
That's actually when you find out about the Mu relay, which is when
you actually
you
know that Benezia is indoctrinated too. This
yes.
is when she goes into more detail. She switches like that. Like
Mhm.
She switches on and off where she's talking to you as her, and then she'll snap and be like, die. No longer herself.
Mm-hmm.
And when she actually dies,
Mm-hmm.
she specifically says along the lines of, there's no light.
Mm-hmm. They always say that there's a light. There's now the other thing, and that is one reason to bring Liara, obviously because of their connection, but she calls Liara Little Wing as she's fading. She hears that, and you'll hear somebody else mention that later on in Mass Effect 3. You've spoken to them in Mass Effect 2, so we'll get into that a little bit later. I would actually say that's an important character, but we'll get to them when we get to Mass Effect 2. So you're back in your debriefing room. Shepard didn't have anything that you needed to tap into, I guess, Prothean-wise. This is pretty much just like a straightforward debriefing. And I tell you that the new relay is, the key to stopping Saren. Well, outside of that, the one time that you kind of have to talk to the council is they're going to give you information on Ilos, or Vermeer, excuse me. Yes, you don't find Ilos until later, which is where Saren has been conducting experiments on breeding Krogan and working on indoctrination himself,
This
seeing the
is
effects of everything.
also a big moment for you in the game because this is where you can potentially lose 2 characters.
Yes.
No matter what, you lose one, which
but you
we've
can
talked
always
about.
but you can lose 2.
Yes, we've talked about this numerous times, being Rex and Caden or Ashley. Caden or Ashley, you lose no matter what.
It's like a lock into that one.
There's no ands, ifs, or buts. It's one or the other.
Right.
Rex is optional. You have the option of being able to calm him down, which is pretty fairly easy to do given your morality points. If you have a specific amount of morality, you can calm him down.
If you did, he has a side mission that you can help him with. That also has a big factor into it. If you don't, like you're saying, it'll come down to
having to shoot him or have Ashley shoot him.
Right. So it can get a little tense when it comes to Rex, but it's one of those how you want it to play out.
He's fighting for his species, so because he found out that Saren is trying to cure the genophage, and obviously Rex wants that to happen. So
right. But even Shepard knows, this isn't the way to have that happen. What he's doing, making puppets out of your people.
Exactly.
That they're just slaves to what he's doing. So it's not going to benefit the Krogan at all. If anything, it's going to make matters worse.
Rex sees that. It's just he's in a rage at the moment because he hears, hey, you want him to do it, blah blah blah.
And it's also a mission where, meeting Captain Kirrahe, he sets up two of his own teams to infiltrate the facility, take down anything that might be going on, and possibly fight Saren in the process. Well, you have 2 ways of doing his mission, helping with his mission, I guess you could say.
Give him Ashley or Caden.
Yeah, that's literally the first thing. He asked for either one of them to join up, and then that leaves the other one to guard a bomb, the breeding facility, and he actually goes over that.
You can take whoever you don't choose. You can take them with you until you get to that section, and then Caden and Ashley are both in a spot where they can't be. Ashley, if you choose Ashley to go, she's pinned down by Geth in a certain spot. You go on your way to try to help her, and Caden stays with the bomb.
Yeah, or vice versa if you decide.
So you do that, and you do certain aspects, because Kirrahe can also die in this. Kirrahe and his team can die if you don't do certain things. Like there's certain spots, like you can take down a satellite dish, you can take down the drone section where they refuel facility. You
Hmm.
can set an alarm or disarm the alarm. You
Hmm.
can set the alarm where Ashley is, or
Hmm.
you can take care of what's there. If you set the alarm and have it go over there, there's a bigger chance that Kirky's team dies because
Yes.
they don't have the manpower.
Yeah.
And I think Kaden or whoever, one of your teammates, whoever's with you, will mention that if you do the alarm,
Hmm.
you're giving more trouble to the other team.
Yeah. So
But I think those are the
usually,
three that you actually have to do.
hmm, yeah.
And
Actually, now thinking about it,
this is also where you have a big moment too, because as you're doing all this, you end up talking to Sovereign.
yes, which we discussed in the last episode, and came down to your two favorite lines.
There's a line Sovereign says, like, this is one of my favorite scenes, and I mentioned this in
Hmm.
in the indoctrination episode. This is one of my favorite scenes. I don't love Mass Effect 1, like it's not my favorite game
Hmm.
out of the series, but this scene makes me love this game because this scene just gives me chills. The fact that you're literally talking to a Reaper
Hmm.
who's trying to kill you,
Hmm.
who knows you're being a pest and
Hmm.
doesn't like you,
Hmm.
and he comes up and he says this specific line where it says, "You exist because we allow you to. You exist because we allow it, and you'll end because we demand it," or something along the lines of that. And that
Yes.
line just gives me chills. And then when he's at the end of the conversation, he says, "I am the vanguard of your destruction. This exchange is over." And when he
Hmm.
says that, like the whole, like the windows and everything break, and Joker
Yeah.
comes on the intercom and is like, "Commander, something hairy is going on. Like, whatever you did down there, you pissed off somebody."
And my response is usually, "Oh, lay it on me, Joker. I love getting bad news." Well,
So,
also don't forget too, before you have that exchange with him, you activate that Prothean beacon that's down in the lower level.
yes.
So that's actually what gets his attention. You've gotten the cipher by this point because you can usually
Well,
take two missions.
you'll have to do the cipher, I
Right.
think.
Well, no, you don't have to do it first. You could do Therum and then Novaria, then get to Vermeer, and then have Pharaohs as the last one.
Yes,
Then
yes.
that will actually give you. So in that, it's still open to the possibility. If you've done all the other ones, that should be the last beacon that you have to get,
Yes.
and then that will actually complete what you have been trying to find and what Liara is actually able to find for you. The message that the Protheans have sent as that about the Reapers.
Yeah, so that is one of my favorite scenes. Vermeer in
Mhm.
general is one of my favorite missions, minus the
It's
killing one of
it's
your
the high
teammates.
stakes. Yeah,
Yes.
it's the high stakes mission.
And
That one.
it's a good little mission to do. It doesn't take you super long. I can have that usually
Mm,
done within an hour, hour and a half, depending
mhm,
on if I do everything
mhm.
and I do all
Um,
the conversations and all that kind of stuff. But I
God, n-
find Vermeer one of my favorite out of Mass Effect 1 if I have to play
mhm.
Mass Effect 1, because sometimes I'll just do the comic.
Yeah,
But if I have to play Mass Effect 1, I love doing Vermeer, and
yeah.
it's like I said, it's just one of those missions that it really shows you just how much you have to do.
Cinematics, the dialogue, the action. I mean, everything about that mission. The way that that mission is described, even when you're talking to Kirihi, and he's
Hmm.
trying to explain everything going on. He, Shepard says specifically, and that could be why they did that for the second game. You talk like this is a suicide mission.
Mhm.
You know, Mass Effect 2 was a suicide mission. This one didn't necessarily have to be. And
Yeah.
2 doesn't necessarily have to be either. The way that it was going down, you were going to end up losing somebody at that point. So again, yeah, you had either Rex outside of battle, or you have Caden or Ashley essentially within battle, being left to guard the bomb, take care of, any straggling forces. So either way, yes, somebody does have to get left, but just the way that they did everything, that was like the epic mission within Mass Effect, first one anyway. Just how they were able to do all that, your interaction with Sovereign. Talked about to Sovereign and Saren by the end of this, trying to figure out what's going on and why Saren's doing what he's doing.
Before the end of this, and like you do battle with Saren before you get off of here, right before Caden or whoever dies, I believe you fight with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those missions that even though you lose somebody, you feel complete doing it. It's one of those missions that it really puts you as a commander to the test.
Yes. It puts your will, your resolve. How far are you willing to go to complete your mission? If that means sacrificing one of your own crew,
maybe more than one of your own crew.
Exactly. Do I want to do this? Do I need to do this? Or I need to do this. Like, it doesn't give you a choice, but at the same time, it still has its implications going forward. They'll bring it up again in Mass Effect 2 and in Mass Effect 3, depending on who dies. Every little decision that you make, even right up to the end of Mass Effect, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit, the end of Vermeer, everybody is just shaken at this battle. I mean, it is literal, almost like coming out of a battle in World War One or two, and people are done with fighting for the time being. Coming down from that adrenaline, and they're just like exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally. Then you get the message from counselors, basically debriefing and what's going on, and Shepard's ready to go after Saren. Plain and simple, no questions asked. They still are hesitant to believe you, and Shepard's pissed at this point. Like, I told you guys everything that you needed to know. You have the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
You have the audio files. You have everything that you need. Why aren't you listening?
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, Shepard is more composed than, say, Udina would be, but it's finally when if you decide to like make your rounds with the crew, check on everybody, see how they're doing. Once you hit the galaxy map again, Udina's finally got the council to come around to go after Saren. Or at least you think. When you get to the Citadel, though, you find out that they are only interested in protecting the Citadel. They're not interested in going anything further than, Citadel space. Shepard's wondering, why aren't you guys going to Ilos? And the Solarian counselor basically says, it's only accessible through the Mu relay, and it links to dozens of systems and hundreds of worlds, which also Liara mentions too. She actually gives you that information once she uses her abilities, similar to what we saw Javik do in Mass Effect 3. She found that's exactly where you needed to go. So Shepard's wondering, why aren't you guys going to Ilos? That's where Saren is going. He's not coming directly to the Citadel. He will. It doesn't work like that. So they end up locking out the Normandy.
But they also, the reason why they don't want to send you there either is because the council and Udina don't believe that the Reapers are real. They think the Reapers are a lie created by Saren.
Right.
They don't. They basically say that you're Geth hunting. They don't. They never actually say Reapers are the cause of this. They always say that it's the Geth. Even in 2, after you fought with Sovereign and everything, they say that it was still a Geth attack. When you come back and you go to the Citadel and you talk to the council, they say the Geth attack, and then Shepard's like, Geth attack? Don't you mean the Reaper attack? And they're like, yes, Reapers, we have dismissed that claim. And they never actually believe you until the 3rd game when their homeworlds are being destroyed.
by guess what they were? Reapers, I want to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
it takes all of that for Shepard to basically be like, you know what, screw this, I'm done. Then you actually get the call from Anderson.
Well, first you get grounded, and if
Yes.
you
Yeah.
have had a romance, so this is where you kind of get your romance scene. Shepard will go to their locker, main part of the on the second half of the ship.
Was
They'll
essentially like the crew deck.
Yeah, they'll go to their locker and they can't get in it, so they kind of sit in are like this. And your romance option or whoever you've been flirting with will come over and basically just sit with you. And Joker will come on saying that you're needed. Captain Anderson needs you, and then you meet Captain Anderson at Flux, which is a bar.
Yeah.
And he gives you two options, which are
you can either use override the controls in Citadel Control, which is basically in CSEC, to unlock it, which doesn't actually do too well for Anderson. If you do this, he does end up shot. I don't know if he dies.
No, he just gets shot.
Yeah, he just gets shot. He's shot and I think arrested doing that. Or my favorite one, sending him into Udina's office to override it from there. In doing so, he will walk into the office. Udina would be like, Anderson, I didn't call for you. What are you doing? And before he could even get anything out, right hook to the chin. It was just so beautiful. It's one of my favorite scenes in the game. Anderson will still unlock the Normandy for you to get out and send you on your way to Ilos. At this point, obviously, if you've been doing any of your side missions, you still have opportunities if you've missed any. But for right now, we'll just go ahead and say you're heading to Ilos. And at that point, again, you've already met with your romance option just before meeting Anderson, going into Ilos.
It'll say something along the lines that you've got a couple hours. So Joker will be sitting there waiting for the lock to be off, like the lock to be deactivated.
Yeah.
And once you do that, once you head to Ilos, Joker says you've got an estimate of like 2-3 hours. So kind of go relax. And this is where you get your love scene.
Right.
With your romance.
Right. And yeah, so you had the romance option. If not, then, it goes straight to it. But
if you don't have a romance option, I think it just shows you on your computer. Looking at your data pad or something.
Yeah.
I always do a romance because I don't want, it's a part of the game, to find that person or to have that relationship. So it's kind of like it's that nice little calm before the storm.
Right.
And so once you've had your romance option, Joker will say that you're getting close to the bridge. You go up to the bridge and you have a scene where you're trying to figure out how to get down there. Presley's kind of stressing out at you that there's no option of you going down there and making it down there in a good way. You're basically fucked.
Yeah. Then Shepard decides, hey, let's drop the Mako. He's like, to make a drop like that,
you need 100 yards or something.
Best I can find is 20. And who but your pilot decides, you know what, I can do that. and then Shepard's like, Joker, I can do it. Then Shepard's like, all right, everybody head down to the Mako. Joker, drop us right on top of that bastard.
He pretty much almost does.
Actually, yeah. Saren just makes it into the door that you're trying to get into. Sealed off at this point. Does end up landing you right there. And then you have your way around the main facility to unlock, fighting off the Geth. And that's pretty much it, I want to say. You don't have any of the husks or anything fight off. It's strictly Geth at this point again. So it's literally like you're ending almost how you started on Eden Prime. So going back to that, you make your way through it once you've unlocked through the facility. Now, the one thing that you do find as you're unlocking things is this message sent out across channels galaxy-wide. your two squad mates, no matter who you bring, don't understand anything that it's saying. It sounds like a garbled transmission.
It's a
The
security console.
only person that hears it is Shepard, and it's because of the cipher that he was given by Shiala. Shepard's the only one who can understand it. And that's not the first time, or I should say, that's not the only time that will happen, because something like that happens again in Mass Effect 3. So, given that Shepard's able to understand now what has gone on, what is happening, what they need to do to stop everything. So, once you can actually get the Mako in through canal channel, I guess you can call it, you come to a point where the Mako is stopped by this
You
energy
have field.
Yes. Yeah.
Both ends, and it stops you, and you think it's a trap, or your crewmates will say it's a trap by Saren, and then Shepard says, I don't think it is, and you end up, your Mako literally will stop no matter what. Like you can push your controller all you want, but you ain't going
anywhere.
So after that, you head down an elevator, and this is where you actually talk to Vigil.
Mm-hmm. Who is a remaining VI from a couple thousand years. He's somehow been able to maintain like security and everything, gives you the information that you needed as far as, you know, the conduit, the citadel, even the keepers themselves, who are, you know, these bug things on the citadel. They are actually the caretakers of the citadel. They're the ones who, I guess, decide whether or not they are going to answer the call whenever the conduit is activated. When you find that out, it's basically a race against time at this point. You need to get what information that he has. You can ask all the questions that you want, but ultimately you need to race to get to the conduit, because it'll transport you directly into the Citadel, and more specifically the Presidium. And the interesting thing about that conduit, where it drops you off, if you're ever walking around the Presidium at first and stop at the monument, what you think it is, that's the conduit, because you hear that low hum.
Yes.
Or one of your crew members will hear like a low hum, and they'll start to wonder about it. It's like, what is that? And so
it looks like a relay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Like a miniature relay almost.
Yeah.
So once you get through that, that's when it throws you into the Citadel Presidium. The Presidium's burning. And by this point, it's, you know, pretty much straightforward. Get on the elevator, get up there, go after Saren. You come across pockets of Krogan and Geth. And once you can cut through all of that, you make it to the Citadel chambers, the council chambers.
You're also getting a lot of cutscenes during this about setting up for the attack on Sovereign. You're also getting the Reapers coming in and like attaching to the Citadel. You're getting all this kind of like in between fighting, to the point where you actually literally see feet of a Reaper coming down as you're fighting.
Right. So in doing that, I'm trying not to get squashed like a bug, and survive all the gunshots coming at you. But once you can finally get past all of that, make it to the council chambers, it gives you the final showdown against Saren.
Before you fight with Saren, though, do you get the option to save or kill the council?
No. That comes after. Well, okay. The dialogue between them. You have that first.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not an actual fight, although you
get to the chamber, and then you have your talk with Sarah. You can kind of tell you he believes you and all this, and this is where you feel like you could have had him on your side if he wasn't so far gone from Sovereign, because he even says along the lines of, it's too late for me. And you can have him shoot himself in the face.
Yeah, the jaw, and it goes through, and that's what has him falls to his death.
Yes,
we'll say.
And you get that intermission, and you tell your squad mates to go check on him.
And
And
then
then you
that's when,
decide when if you want to save or kill the council. I always save them because the other council that you get is they don't make you Spectre again in the second game and stuff like that. And it's just overall I like the original
the
council
originals, yeah.
better than the new council. So
Hmm.
try it once, but you'll
Yeah.
probably regret it.
Yeah. Because they wouldn't even see you in Mass Effect 2.
I don't think so.
No, it isn't until Mass Effect 3, and even then they still have ill feelings. From there, again, you do end up fighting him similar to the Geth Crawlers on Pharaohs.
Well,
So
first
once
of all,
you,
he gets Sovereign takes over him.
right, right, and that's what gives him that new form, if you will.
He basically
Um,
changes from what he was, like all his armor drops off and
mhm,
he turns into this like tiny little like thing that looks like this. Like
yeah,
he's small as fuck now and fast
and
as fuck.
you also have to deal with Geth in between trying to fight him because it might depend on your difficulty level because again,
Yeah,
remember, I
you
do
say
play.
I don't think I've seen Geth in between that. I think you just fight Sovereign, but he
Yeah.
has, if you get him halfway,
Hmm.
you get cutscene. You get a few cutscenes while you fight him.
Yeah, the Alliance and the Citadel forces are actually trying to fight up against the Geth and Sovereign. If you do play it on higher difficulty, you will have interactions come in and try to stop you from stopping him. You do all of that, Sovereign's hold lifted after you've killed Saren. And in doing that, it had actually taken hold of the Citadel Tower. But at that point, it basically drops off, and then that gives Joker actually the chance to take the Normandy, fly down, and shoot through it to destroy it. And after all of that, you meet with the council, assuming that you saved them. And depending on your morality, everything that
No,
you've
no, no.
done.
Before that, they think you're dead.
Oh, yeah, that is right. Yeah, because the what was it? One of the tentacles, I guess. But one of the, like the small fingers, I guess you could probably say.
Something falls
Uh,
on top of you. It falls upon you. Rubble falls all over you, and Anderson is looking for you. Anderson first finds your crew, and
mhm.
they're starting to walk away, and you come running up, and everyone has a smile on their face because you can't see Tally's face, but you can tell she's happy that you're
Yeah,
alive.
yeah,
So everyone has a smile on their face, but yeah.
yeah. Once that does happen, you are met with both the council and Anderson.
Udina and Anderson.
Yeah, talk about the future of space, even bringing humans into the council.
Mhm.
And again, depending on your morality, if you save them, but you've done a lot of bad things, you may be met with a darker room. Seeing as how ruthless Shepard can be, council will see maybe you're not to be messed with. Maybe we should go ahead and it's better to have you at our side than across from us
Yes.
because deal with the repercussions given what we've seen.
Mhm.
That you can decide either Anderson or Udina can be nominated for human counselor. Now, I want to say still, if you do have Udina there, there's a low chance, I want to say, for Paragon, that he will either meet with you or allow the council to see you. Anderson on there, you're actually guaranteed to meet with the council regardless.
I think no
Um,
matter what, with Anderson, you get the option of becoming a Spectre again into.
yes. Yeah. So
I
even
don't
if,
know. I don't know if you get that if Udina,
yeah,
because
and especially if it's
Anderson
only,
fights with you. Anderson fights for you.
yeah, and always has and always will at that point. In the end, Shepard tells him, like, look, I told you what was going to happen. You didn't listen. Now you know. And that goes Paragon and Renegade. It's essentially what Shepard's saying. It's like, look, we're not done. We still
Hmm.
got a whole hell of a lot to do. Sovereign, he says specifically, Sovereign is just a vanguard. The Reapers have hundreds of ships, maybe thousands, and I'm going to stop them.
Hmm.
So, that being said, whoever you have as counselor, now's the time for us to come together, fight as one, because that's the only way that we're going to survive, which is an ongoing theme within Mass Effect. So, way Anderson and Udina be like, look, we've got stuff to take care of, and Shepard's the one who's going to lead us through. I want to say that's pretty much where it all ends for the first game for missions. I was saying earlier, they did a great job writing this. Everything just fell perfectly into place, and your interactions, good and bad. Paragon Renegade, you can't really say anything's bad in here. Depending on your morality, it's all just one of those, it works. It tells such a great story, and can't wait to really dig into Mass Effect 2, because that one's may or may not take longer, given that you have so much to do with the crews and the overall missions themselves. I think that pretty much wraps everything up, doesn't it?
Yeah, other than the side missions, which we will talk about in the next episode, go more in depth on what side missions will have an effect on 2, as well as what side missions will have an effect on even just 1. Doing certain things, if you don't do certain things, kind of like with the side missions within the main missions, like I said, the things on Burmire, stuff like that. We'll go into more detail about that kind of stuff. That sums up Mass Effect 1 in the best way possible. Like, it tells you a little bit about every mission that you do, like the main missions, but there are side missions, like I said, that can affect the main missions, and there are side missions that affect the next game and the next game.
Right.
So
everything is connected, basically. Well, I guess on that note, we'll save this for the next episode, and guys, we will see you again later.
Bye.